Wondering how you can build community and trust with your audience and email list? Since email is not dead, have you considered emailing your list more often? Well, to answer that question, I brought on Marc Wawhinney with over 10 years as an online coach and founder of the Facebook group, The Coaching Jungle, which has more than 26,000 active members. He emails his list every single day, 7 days a week, and he is sharing his tips, why he does this, and the advice to do the same. So let's get on to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Today, I have a great guest, Marc Wawhinney. He's from the Natural Born Coaches. He has a fabulous Facebook group. And I just want to pick your brain, Marc. But for everybody to really get to know you, because I'm always fascinated by people's pathway, journey in life, if you will. Can you just give everybody like the cliff notes to your journey here?
Yeah. So thanks for having me, by the way. You're going to be on my show too. So that'll be fun.
Exciting.
Coming up. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the coaching world now since 2014. So just celebrated 10 years earlier this year. Sometimes it feels like 5 years. Sometimes it feels like 50 years. It's been about 10 years. And before that, my start in business was through real estate. You know, I spent a decade right out of university building up a real estate business, quite large one here in Canada. And then everything collapsed after years of, I say, hockey stick growth because we're Canadian. But yeah, no stumbles along the way. Everything was going great. Then, implosion. And that led to me talking with you here today, really, because I was struggling after that closure, like most people. You tie your identity to your business. So if the business closes, we entrepreneurs tend to look at that personally as a failure. There's no separation. And I got helped back to my feet by a couple different coaches and mentors. And when I was ready to get back into business in 2014, I said, coaching seems like a lot of fun. I'm going to get into this world. And here we are today. There's a Cliff's Notes version.
Wow. So 10 years, congratulations.
Thank you.
So with 10 years of experience in the coaching world, if you had to look back on your entire 10 years, or maybe just towards your beginning, what is something that you're glad you did because of the lessons you learned, but you're like, it just didn't work out?
In coaching specifically, or just in general for life?
I would say like in building your business, your coaching business.
Well, this one's kind of a hybrid because So when I launched my podcast in 2014, it was late 2014, I decided I would do a daily show for the first year, which, I'm like, oh yeah, John Lee doing this, other ones are doing daily, and I'll edit it myself. I didn't have an editor at the time. What could go wrong? So it built up the number of episodes very quickly because we got the 350 some or whatever, the first year. But I realized after that year that I wasn't getting 7 times the ROI doing 7 episodes a week versus where for years we've been at 1 episode a week, weekly, and that's how the Natural Born Coach up close to 900 episodes now because it got such a, quick start with all those daily ones. But if I could go back in time, I would probably say, hey, Marc, you could take the foot off the gas a bit and maybe do a weekly show or a couple episodes a week, but don't do 7. Luckily it worked out because we're here today. And, I'm very happy with the way the show went, but that was a crazy pace I realized wasn't sustainable. I don't think the show would still be going if it was daily all those years.
Wow. That's all I got to say is wow. I mean, when I hit 200, I went to 2 episodes a week, and even 2 episodes, people are like, how do you do it? And you just figure it out. And I'm glad that I'm doing it. Yes. But I am, to your point, I'm glad that I waited the almost 4 years, 3 years to bump it up to 2.
Yeah. And I changed my daily efforts, what we'll be talking about today, to emails. So I started doing daily emails in 2016. So I'm a fan of consistent daily action just for podcasting. It goes a little too quick, right? If you're on my show today, I release it, we're, promoting it all over, but then tomorrow new show hits or whatever, you're left kind of behind. It's in this way, I can promote you all week, our episodes. Yeah.
That's true. That's a great strategy. So speaking of strategy, what is a mistake that you see a lot of struggling coaches? And so when I say struggling coaches, that can mean that they're new, they're semi-new.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot we could probably talk about. It's not easy to get rolling in business, but a big one is they're not focusing enough on specific results, what they're putting out there to people. So it's very much, I'm going to slap up a website and I'm going to have a one-on-one offer that gives this many calls, once a week we do a call, emails for whatever, but they're not focusing on, okay, why is somebody going to whip out their credit card and invest in your services with the results? Or they're very broad and general, which is the theory being, well, cast a wide net so it can get more people, right? If I'm more general, ironically, it usually goes the other way. Once you narrow it down, you end up getting more people through there. So I found that even more so here in 2024 versus 2014. At that time, you could sometimes get away with being more general, but now I think you really need to hone in and you have to let people know very clear, here's the results that you're getting with us working together.
Yes, I agree. I like that a lot. And I have one more question for you before we dive into email, because I'm dying to ask you some questions about your email because I'm on your email list. And I don't know how you're going to answer this question, but if you had to start all over again, what would you do differently, if anything?
I would probably start daily emails sooner. So we'll chat about this, but I spent about 2 years of doing email like everyone else, where it was once a week, once every 2 weeks, sometimes twice a week, sometimes it might be a few weeks before sending emails. And they were boring, designed not to offend. And, heaven forbid you get an unsubscribe, it's the end of the world. And then that got no results or very little. And I'm thankful that I changed over to daily. So I would start daily right out of the gate if I was starting over.
Okay. Now I'm one of those people that feels like, oh my God, I would be bothering people if I
Yeah.
emailed them every day. And when you say every day, you're talking 7 days a week, every single day.
It's funny because sometimes I'll speak with a past client or someone I've spoken with about daily emails before. And they're like, hey, Mark, I do daily emails. You got me into it. I'm like, great. Oh, you do 7 days a week. Well, I do Monday to Friday. I take the weekend off. And that's kind of like saying in football, like, hey, I got a touchdown. Well, I ran 85 or 90 yards down the field. I didn't go into the end zone, but that's pretty much the length of the field. If you're going to do it that many times, go the full way, I say, with it. That being said, 5 a week's better than 0 or 1. Don't get me wrong, but and I can guarantee you any objections you have in your head, I had in my head before I started too. Because I'm like, this is crazy. Everyone's going to hate me and they're going to unsubscribe and hate my guts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we peek behind the curtain, the why email every single day?
This isn't popular to admit in the coaching world or online business because everyone pretends they don't like money. They're like, oh, no, I just want to impact lives. So I don't care about the money. I'm Mother Teresa. It's money, it's profit. Now, that being said, you're building a stronger relationship with your people. You're putting your offers in front of them more often. You're cutting through the noise. You're staying top of mind. But that should be the goal of it. When I say daily emails, it's not just to email them for the sake of emailing and then you're not making any offers or whatever. That's a waste of your time, a waste of everyone's time. There's a way to do it where you can build the relationship, but then you also invite them to take the next step to investigate your help with whatever it is that you're offering. So you're doing it for your business. It's a capitalist world, although a lot of people crap on capitalism nowadays. It is a capitalist world. And if you have to operate in that, if you're not making profit, you can't stay in business.
Okay. So we're going to start from the beginning. So I get onto your email list. How long is your nurture sequence? Do you have one?
No. So I'm not into like the soap opera sequence. I know it was big from Russell Brunson stuff years ago where day 1, you talk about kindergarten when you peed your pants and were embarrassed in class or whatever. Day 2 is grade 3 when you got bullied on the playground and what you did there. Day 5 is up to getting married. And so with mine, when people jump in, they get the auto response with the free gift that I promise when they opt in. They get that right away, but then they're on my email list like day 2, day 3, day 4. They're getting the same emails as everyone else.
Okay. And so, of your 7 days a week, how many of them are you putting an offer versus building the relationship? Or do you consider them to be the same?
Yeah, I'm putting now I say an offer, there's an invitation to do something in every email. So what I mean by that is while they could be, hey, basically my emails are telling a lesson and something I think they should know really quick. It's not 1,000 words or anything, but then it's transitioning to something like, oh, by the way, I go over this in greater detail in module 3 of my XYZ program. Check it out here, something like that. But the invitation could be, for example, often on Mondays, I release my new podcast episode every Monday morning. So often my Monday email is my Natural Born Coaches episode. Hey, I had Laurie-Ann Murabito on the show today where we talked about blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Check it out. Here's the link. So that's technically not selling something, but it's an invitation to take the next step.
Okay. So I think that's a really important distinction to share with people, that there's the selling, but what you're doing is, it's like, here's an invitation to go listen to this podcast, go check something out. If they happen to check out that third module of that particular program and buy, fantastic. But it's always an invitation to take a step forward with you.
Find that email marketers or people with email lists are so often scared of their list, and they're thinking, oh, gee, I don't want to look too salesy or whatever. And I even see it when they haven't emailed a list in, let's say, 6 months, and then they want to re-engage it and start emailing again. They'll send this big, long email apologizing like they ran over the person's dog or something. I'm so sorry you haven't heard from me. Like, I feel awful about it. I'm going to be sending emails, and I might be sending more of them. They might be, sometimes daily, but don't worry. Like, if you don't want to be on here, like, don't worry, and it's just a little too much, and people can sense that. Same thing goes with building a community of Facebook groups, wherever. You can't be afraid to put your offers out there. Like, you've earned that right. You're giving them something of value. The exchange is you get to pitch your services with it. So my emails aren't pitch fest. I want to give them a nugget or something of value that they learn something there. But it's also, and then it goes to a sale, but it's also not over teaching, which that's the other side of it. Some people say, okay, I got to make sure I give them everything. So they're basically it's sharing what's in their programs, it's dumping it into an email, which people probably aren't consuming. They haven't paid for it. It's not a program, and it's a lot of wasted time and energy. So there's a bit of a balance. And the more that you do email, you start to get better at it. It's like going to the gym, you're building your content creation muscle, but you're starting to get a really good radar for the flow that you want to do and the style, the length of it, and so on.
Yeah, you do a very nice job. I mean, I do notice that some of them are shorter, some of them are a little bit longer, but there is always that invitation.
Well, and I shouldn't share this with you, you're a subscriber, but one secret I will say is I cheat sometimes, and this is the benefit of doing daily email so long for so many years. I can go back and reuse an email from 2017 or whatever. And now I might have to tweak some things. So if the email from 2017 said President Trump, who knows, maybe later this year I wouldn't have to change it. But if I'm doing it today, it's got to change to President Biden or whatever with it. So I have a quick look at it to see is there anything that dates it. But for the most part, a lot of my emails are evergreen anyway. So I may have to tweak just a little bit, but I don't change much. So if you're ever stuck, you can go back to old emails if you've been doing a lot of them for a while. And that's why the you of 2024, if you start today doing daily emails, the you of 2029, 2030 is going to thank the you of 2024 because you're helping them right now by doing them today.
Right. There was once upon a time when I was speaking in leadership, I had a leadership tip. So that was a weekly tip email that went out in addition to my other emails. But it was, the sole purpose was to remind people that, I'm a speaker and you can hire me. And at the end, there was always, occasionally there was a product that I was promoting, but I did this and they were the same emails that went out year after year after year. And that first year, it was like, it was work. However, it got done and then it was really easy to recycle. And so, no, I'm not offended that you're recycling I would expect you to.
I've never had a person that said, hey, wait a minute, Mark, you used the same email on May 25th of 2015, like, how dare you? I'm unsubscribing. So that's something to keep in mind. I saw a guy, Kawasaki, I was speaking at an event where he was speaking at as well. So I sat in on his talk and he was telling a story where as a social experiment, a social media experiment. He decided to use the exact same post twice in the same day on his Facebook fan page. And his fan page at the time, I think it had like 450,000 people on there. It wasn't a small page. And he was curious if he did one post in the morning and then the word for word same post in the afternoon, how many people would complain. Do you want to take a guess at how many complaints he got in the afternoon after he did the same one?
I'm going to say, I want to say 0. Did anybody?
Very close. It was 2 out of almost 500,000. So that goes to show if somebody has an email list of like 500 or 5,000 or something, you're probably okay if you're going to use an email from a year ago. Or now I wouldn't use one that I did, me personally, like a week ago or something. I go back, further than that. And I don't do it all the time, but it helps because you're not going to be on your A game all the time to create where you're firing on all cylinders. If I'm ever stuck, I'll go back. Like I read a lot and I'm the type that highlights passages, writes notes, everything. I could pick up a book that's in my bookcase and just flip it open and bang, there's tons of ideas I can riff off of. Hey, I was reading The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman today. He said something in chapter 4 about this, blah, blah, blah. I agree with it. Oh, by the way, I came across this in my life the other day, hearing blah, blah, blah. Then yeah, you're off to the races.
Okay. So, I really appreciate that tip, just using stuff in your everyday life. But how would you suggest somebody who has only been emailing their list like once a week? I email my list right now twice a week, but how do you go, or maybe you're just going to say, just start doing 5.
Oh.
But do you build up to that? I'm just thinking of like the person that's listening to this, or even myself, if I adopt this philosophy, like of avoiding the burnout.
The burnout from you as the emailer or from your list?
For me to write the emails to get to that 5, 7 a week.
So I'm the type, like, if you're learning how to swim, you're better off just jumping in the pool. The good news is you're not going to drown going to daily emails, but I like just going right at it. So good example, when I started doing daily emails, prior to that for 2 years, as I mentioned, I was doing them sporadically, just like everyone else. And I had a guest on my podcast, and I was complaining to him after we did our interview that I was going to give up emails because I was going to focus on the podcast, social media stuff that was actually working. And he said he's a big fan of daily emails. He's the one that got me into it because he said, well, why don't you try daily just for a month, Mark? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that doesn't cost me anything, just some of my time or whatever. So I said, I'm going to do it for a month and I don't care what results I get. I don't have to make $1 million. I ended up making 1.4 million. Now, the online space, everyone's making millions in 5 minutes. Now, I didn't make $1 million from it, but what I did notice is I started to get more reply emails from my list, which I never got before. That was very rare. And a handful of sales started to trickle in from it. And that showed me, maybe there's something to this. So I think that's important when you commit to something. Don't look as much at the results, which you can't control as much, but you can control emailing every day. And I also batch them, right? I batch create them. I don't sit down every morning with a blank screen and think, okay, what am I going to write about today? I might write a week's worth of emails in one sitting just so they're scheduled. It takes pressure off.
Okay. So how far in advance are your emails already scheduled?
Perfect world, a month is what I shoot for. But in real life, things get in the way, or I maybe get a new JV partner. So I'd have to slot in a week of stuff for them. So I'm usually 2 weeks at least is my comfort level. A week, I'm feeling pretty good. If I'm down to a day or two, for me, I want to get more of a buffer just in case. So I would say if you can stay 1 to 2 weeks ahead scheduled, you're pretty good.
Okay. I like that. So you already told us that your Monday email is devoted to your podcast.
Usually, like sometimes it's not, but it's often. Yeah.
It's often. Okay. Is there any, do you have anything else? Like Tuesday is like something very inspirational. Wednesday is XYZ.
No. So the way I do it, and not that that's a bad idea. If that gets the emails written where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this on Monday. Like you said, inspirational. Tuesday, I'm going to do a Q&A, answer a question that I got. Wednesday is going to be a poll. I ask them to reply and, give their opinion on something. Thursday, and so on. The way that I do it is I work kind of backwards from that, where every day I know what I'm promoting for that day. And I usually go roughly a week at a time. So I'm not changing from offer A today. offer B tomorrow, offer C the next day, then back to offer A, then after B. I like a longer runway. So for me, usually it's a week. Sometimes it can be 9, 10 days. There's the odd time that I squeeze something in if I have a couple day gap between things, but usually it's about a week that I do it. And that way I'm focusing that call to action throughout the week. My emails could be very disjointed. And I say disjointed, they're not the same theme like I just mentioned, where it's a quote or inspirational or question, whatever. And I think that keeps it a little more flexible. But some people might create better when they have that structure of knowing, oh, okay, I got to write the email for Wednesday, and that's a day that I do X. So that could get their creative juices flowing. It's really whatever works for you, but it's very important to know your call to action. So me, this is a really high tech system here. This is my, hard copy calendar, but the reason I have this, I could do this using an app or something on the computer, but I like having it right on my desk right there. And I'm looking and I see a little initial in the bottom of each day that I know what I'm promoting. So this week I'm doing a joint venture with Simon Zutshi, and I have JV Simon every single day at the bottom of all those. So I know, okay, yeah, I'm doing my JV for Simon this week.
Okay. I like that. And the fact that you're like, for 1 week, you're promoting the same thing. I mean, like on my podcast, it's like, I like to have like the same call to action that people are hearing over and over and over again, so that hopefully one of those times they actually take that step
Well, there's consistency, right? It's a noisy space with emails, podcasts, social media. So if you're bouncing around every day, talk about something different, it's more difficult to get it to stick. And the interesting thing is, if I get a new client and someone comes on board, and I like to say, so how did you hear about me? It's good to know. And they're like, well, I heard you talking about this program in the Facebook group in the coaching jungle, but I'm on your email list. I think you talked about it there, and you mentioned on your podcast too. So I'm not sure where I heard it. So in a perfect world, somebody would be on my email list in the Facebook group. They're following me all over social media. They're subscribed to the podcast and so on. And then that makes sure they hear my message enough times to cut through all that noise.
Okay. Can we just like throw in your Facebook group now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The coaching jungle. Thank you for being a member, but we've got almost 26,000 coaches in there, and it's coachingjungle.com. So it's a great group, lots of interesting discussions, connections being made. We have a VIP program, which we'll talk about at the end. You're a VIP, so thanks for that as well. And yeah, it's coachingjungle.com.
Yes. And it is a wonderful Facebook group. So let's just move into the trends that you think are coming. What is your forecast, you think, for either like the coaching industry, for email marketing, for communities, for 2025? What do you see coming?
So one thing, and I started to notice this probably 2 years ago, and I'm not saying that high ticket is dead by any means, but it's shifted and gotten more difficult for that high ticket stuff. And I started to notice it because I talk with a lot of people, potential clients, things like that, reaching out. And I've noticed a lot of people have been burned by purchasing $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 programs. And they're hesitant, and which I don't blame them. They should be, right? It's almost like if you're dating someone who's had a string of bad relationships, and then you're in a relationship with them and you're trying to tell them, hey, look, I'm not like that. I'm not going to beat you or whatever. But it's good that people are skeptical, because the online space, there's a lot of BS out there and stuff, but it is a hurdle for us to get past because people have, had some bad experiences with it. I see flexibility being key, and I'm doing some experimentation with I've got my higher ticket stuff, but some more community level offers. Well, the Jungle VIP we mentioned, roughly $100 a month offer for that one. But even with my coaching stuff, I'm looking at, okay, what can I do that's about $100 a month for people to get into my world? They're paying something, they've got skin in the game, and then they can upgrade and they can get more direct help if they decide to do that. I don't know if I would want to be out there saying, oh, I only have $10,000 or $20,000 offer, that's it. Because you're swinging for the fences every time, but it helps to hit some singles and doubles, so to speak, use a baseball analogy. So that's one trend that I'm seeing, is you may have to be a little more flexible and put some different offers on the menu, so to speak.
Well, I've always looked at my own behaviors for buying, and I've noticed that I will I'm not really sure. Like, I don't really know this person that well to fork over this thousands of dollars. And I have been one of those people that's been burned by a
Yeah.
$15,000 offer. So I'll like, let me like buy the smaller item. Let me see what their teaching style is. Let me see what results I can get from this. And that like is my little natural step, into saying yes to those high ticket. But uh, and I've noticed that with a lot of my clients, they started off with something very small, said yes, said yes, said yes, became private clients.
Yeah. And I mean, we can't ignore the way the economy is. I know people say be positive and, but at the end of the day, as people are struggling to put food on their table, groceries have doubled and they got to worry about the roof over their heads and stuff like that. They're choosing between that and a coach that they don't know online that's selling a 10K offer, then they're probably going to choose the food for their kids and the roof over their head, hopefully, with it. The good news is I do find cream rises to the top. So I call them douchepreneurs. A lot of the douchepreneurs that were, quote, killing it in, pre-COVID or during COVID, the ones that had the big promises and the flashy Lambos and the rented mansions or the photo shoots and that, they're no longer around anymore. Or you're not seeing them as much because they may have been good at getting the first sale, but not so good at getting repeat business and referrals and so on, because there was nothing but air back there. It was just fluff. So I always say you have to have the sizzle and the steak. The sizzle is the marketing that gets people in the door, because if they don't buy it, they're not going to get help by it. But you have to have the steak as well, which is the substance that's behind it.
Right. I love that. And so we're, building that know, like, and trust, whether it's through daily emails or community, which is that you've got this amazing community that you built with 26,000 people. And it's like one of the most active Facebook groups that I've ever really participated in. So kudos to you
Thank
for
you.
doing that. So, I mean, that is part of your secret sauce, is building community and bringing people in. And that's got to be another way that they get on your email list as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. A couple things. The metaphor I've used is so if you don't have a community and you're relying on whatever might be your Facebook wall or whichever social media platform you use, it's like you're in a little tiny boat or a dinghy in the middle of the ocean. It's noisy, it's busy, it's hard to be seen, right? It's a big ocean. If you have a community, it's like an island that you're drawing people to. Then, like the coaching jungles, my community, but once you get them, they get on that island. Hopefully, they get to know, like, and trust you if you're doing things right, and it makes it a lot easier as opposed to just being out in that ocean. The interesting thing is, my community grows my email list, and my email list grows my community. And what I mean by that is, if somebody puts in a request to join the coaching jungle, one of the questions that they have is to answer as a new member, would you like to get free daily advice from Marc Wawhinney by email on how to grow your coaching business, paraphrasing. And we get a lot of emails that way. That's a big driver for the email list. Also, if somebody joins the email list from wherever, then at the bottom of the auto reply, the first email autoresponder, there's a PS that says, oh, by the way, I have a Facebook group with almost 26,000 amazing coaches in it. Lots of great discussion every day. Here's the link if you want to join. So they're then joining the group from the email. So it's like it's an ecosystem, really.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ecosystem. And you mentioned earlier about your VIP program. This is a perfect time to talk about the VIP program that I'm involved in.
Yeah. So the Coaching Jungle opened in 2015. And for the first 9 years, we were extremely tight on no promotion on the wall. It was deleted. Sometimes people were kicked out if they didn't get the hint, but I was like a dictator in there. I'm like, nope, it's not, unless I was doing a joint venture with someone, they got permission to post on the wall for that week. Just a few months ago, we launched a VIP program. It's a very important poster. So it's got a number of perks. A big one is every week, the VIPs get to put a promotional post on the wall, doesn't get deleted. So that's out there in front of almost 26,000 potential clients. They get other benefits like expert designation in the group. They get the spiffy little blue badge for saying expert at blank. All kidding aside, that does help with credibility. They get access, as you know, because you're a VIP, to a private VIP group. We've got a private Facebook group where the VIPs can connect, collaborate. We do monthly virtual networking meetings. We just did our first one recently, and we're doing those first Thursday of every month. and so on. So there's a lot there, and it's extremely reasonable. It's $97 a month right now, or $9.97 a year. So you save a little bit if you go annual. One sale, one of our VIPs got a $10,000 client on her first post. Well, that $10,000 client would pay for a decade of VIP, probably.
Yes.
Or more. So you don't need to hit on very many, regardless. Even if you're charging way less than 10,000, doesn't take much to get a nice ROI on 97 a month.
Yeah, it really does. And for everybody who's listening, like was I the third person or the fourth person who said
you were number 4?
I was number 4.
Jeremy got in and he referred you just before you. He was the Friday night. You were Saturday morning, I think, if I remember right. Yeah,
I jumped on it really fast. I mean, it's an ideal audience for what I do, and just to be able to serve. And I got to say that the community calls for the VIP that we're doing once a month, those are brilliant. We just had our first one, and I really, really enjoyed myself in that particular environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to give Shelly Jorgensen props, as you know, her platform for doing it. So I was going to do it as a normal Zoom meeting. Well, we've got at the moment upwards of 100 VIPs. Not everyone's going to show up every time, but that could get to be a bit much. And it wouldn't be good if every person had just 30 seconds to talk about their business. So the way the platform works is that with the breakout rooms and stuff like that, I think you guys probably have over 10 minutes each to talk about your business and different things. And then there's some other stuff with it. So it's not your usual Zoom free for all where you don't get to talk.
Yeah. And Shelly had one of her people guiding each room so that, to keep us on track and to get the most out of the session that we had that with just a few people. So I love that. So what is the link for the VIP?
So full disclosure, you have an affiliate link. So if people want to support you, you can buy your private island, your mansion on the island, and your yacht with the affiliate commissions. Now, we have a link set up, naturalborncoaches.com/LA, as in Laurie-Ann. So it's naturalborncoaches.com/LA. You can get the details, and you can start posting literally the day you join the VIP with it. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to do it on a certain day or whatever. You can do your weekly posts a day and time of your choosing. So it's naturalborncoaches.com/LA.
Yeah. And we will have that link down below. Anything else any closing remarks, Marc?
Back to daily emails, I would just say, if you're not getting the results that you want from your email list, then you have nothing to lose, and you have everything to gain by starting with daily emails. And I mentioned earlier, trust me, I had every objection in my head that you had. You probably have if you're listening to this. I'll leave you with one tip, which will help you so much mentally doing it. So most of the email marketing programs or platforms, like I use Aweber, I've used them for years. Most of them have a setting that if someone unsubscribes, they can give feedback, and then you're notified as well. So I would get an email if I had it set that would say, Joe Smith is unsubscribed. And that comment could be, you're a piece of crap, go jump off a building or something. Which I don't recommend that you keep that setting turned on, because even if they don't leave a comment for why they left, you're going to get notified every time someone's unsubscribing. And then in my head, let's say I see Laurie-Ann unsubscribes, I'm going to start thinking, gee, was it something I said in today's email? I made a comment about this. Maybe she got offended by it, or maybe it was yesterday's email. It's going to drive you crazy. So turn that notification off. You don't need to know when people are leaving your world. And who knows, maybe they're cleaning out their email list. Maybe they did it by mistake. It doesn't matter. No concern to you. You can't be so concerned about unsubscribes, or you're going to drive yourself crazy and you just won't get any emails done with it. So turn it off and just take that approach. You know what? I'm putting it out there, taking the filter off, saying what I want to say. And I don't care if someone leaves. They just weren't the right fit for me. But it's better to have a slightly smaller list with people who do resonate with you and they like your message. They like you, what you're saying, as opposed to a bigger list that you're not emailing much because you don't want to lose people, but you're also not monetizing it either. So you're better off going with the daily email, smaller list in that case.
So everybody, you heard it here. Go run your own experiment. Do it for a month and see what happens. And I'm going to have to consider doing this experiment. Yeah. Awesome, Marc.
Can I give one other I should mention on that, Laurie-Ann, is just a word of warning. In the early days, if you start daily emails, like the first week or 2 weeks, you are going to be a little freaked out by the number of unsubscribes. So even if you don't have the setting on where you're getting notified every time when you log into your dashboard, you see how many people join today, how many people leave, because I've had clients before that start it and then they get freaked out. Like, oh my gosh, Mark, I lost like 17 people today or whatever. Well, it's because you haven't emailed your list in a year. And then all of a sudden the last few days, they may have forgot they even joined it. They're starting to get hit with emails. It'll start to settle down and get into a more manageable or lower number as time goes on. But in the first little bit, there's a chance you'll be freaked out by a high number of unsubscribes. But the way I view it, I would rather chase people off my list because chances are they didn't buy from me ever anyways. And that's fine. Like, I'm not going to appeal to everyone, not everyone's cup of tea, but I don't want dead weight on that list anyways. I want people who are engaged, people who are investing in my services.
Yes, yes, yes to all those things. Marc, thank you so much for all the gold nuggets that you dropped today, sharing your time with me this morning and with my audience. And thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks for having me.